Hi, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to the Finding You podcast. I am Dr. Brad Reedy, and today is Thursday, April 3rd, 2025. Tonight is an Ask Me Anything. So, what we do is every other episode or so, we insert one of these Ask Me Anything episodes. You can submit questions at any time if you're just a listener to info@findingyouprograms.com. That's info@findingyouprograms.com. And you can also, if you are a subscriber or you're a Finding You alumni, you can attend these live and submit questions as we go. I'll get to the pre-submitted questions first, and then I'll take any live questions that come from our audience. Before I get into that, let me talk about our upcoming events. April 23rd through 27th is our next Finding You Intensive. May 16th through 18th is the online version of that one. It's about half the time and a third of the cost, and you can do it from home. So it's an opportunity. If time and money are limited resources for you, this can be one that you can do online. Finding You intensives are a 7-person exploration into our family of origin, into our past, and understanding how those dynamics are playing themselves out in our current day questions, dilemma, and relationships. I can think of no better way to accelerate your therapy if you're going to therapy, or to set for you to springboard into your work if you're looking for that start. The Conscious Parenting Workshop's coming up on May 10th. I'm going to be doing an all-day in-person workshop in the Bay Area, 9 a.m. to 4 local time. And then on May 19th, I'm going to be doing the same class, the Conscious Parenting Workshop, but this one is online, May 19th, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Mountain Time. If you're interested in doing some of this work that we do here at Finding You and you want to do it with your partner, we have a Finding Connection Workshop, which is essentially the Finding You intensive or workshop, but with couples. That will be June 18th through 22nd, and that's going to be facilitated by me and my wife, Michelle. So I really look forward to that. I love doing those, love working with her. We also have private intensives for couples, families, or individuals. Any questions, if you want to sign up, register, find out more, info@findingyouprograms.com. In addition to all of this fall, October 12th through 17th, I'm going to be hosting a workshop in New York at the Omega Institute. We're calling it the Audacity to Be You. It is an exploration into who we are, finding ourselves. We're going to be doing a lot of inner child work. I'm going to be co-facilitating this with my daughter, Emma Reedy June, and I look forward to that so much. It's been a long time since she and I have worked together on one of these. Any questions, you can go to the Omega website. That's www.eomega.org, and you can look up the various classes and workshops and look for the Audacity to Be You workshop hosted by me on October 12th. Coming soon for all of you to know, we are going to have the Finding You Inner Circle. This is a subscription base to our podcast. So you'll get extra content, and you'll also have access to these live broadcasts. So if you're a Finding You alumni, you're going to be granted access automatically. If you are not a Finding You alumni, then you can subscribe for $10 a month or $100 per year. It also helps to support these podcasts, to support the work that we do here. And you can attend the live broadcasts and get announcements for those each week. So all of that, as all of these, it's true for all of these. Email us at info@findingyouprograms.com to find out more. So with that, I'm going to get into our first pre-submitted question. And here's how it reads. Somebody writes in and says, do you have tips on ways to keep siblings engaged with one another after the death of parents? Ours died recently, and it feels like my brother and sisters and I have been communicating mainly about them, their decline, their care, their passing. Now they are gone. Now they are gone, and we get along fine, but we have lost the knack for looking out for one another, while we each take care of our own children and families. Wonderful, beautiful question, actually. I think this question really has in it the answer, which is make it explicit, make it conscious, and invite the others to do the same. Something like a family reunion or a family get-together, maybe at one of your houses or some kind of neutral place where you can go and visit, could be that. But I would state the intention or the desire that you have that's expressed in this question to your siblings, and see if they want to get on board with it. Like, they might not be interested, they might not want to follow your lead, but I think if you make conscious your intention, I don't think this is something that necessarily will happen naturally for many families. I think it's something that has to be created after the death or the loss of somebody like a parent. The kind of is the hub somebody that everybody circles around and relates through and relates to. I think it has to be picked up by somebody like you in a very conscious, explicit way. So I would make the invitation. I would state, I would essentially take essentially what you've written in this question as your desire, and just to notice and observe that without becoming intentional, that you're afraid that things might fall apart, and see if they are all interested in remaining in contact and having the children and the extended family get to know each other and build a relationship. So that's my idea. I think you've got it. I think you've got it by the way you asked your question, the fact that you're seeking this out. I think you have all that you need to make this happen, to facilitate this going forward. So that's what I would say to you. Great question. Somebody writes in and says, throughout my life, and more recently, and more so recently than ever, I recognize that I have consistently showed up as the good child, the good sister, the good friend, the good parent, in order to be seen and loved. I am scared if I don't show up this way, I will not be loved, valued, accepted, or that someone close to me may leave me. I want to be the most authentic version of myself, which at times may not always be seen as good. What is the best way to show up for others and myself at the same time? Is it as simple as getting into a place of, this is who I am, take it or leave it? Gosh, this might be one of my favorite ideas to share about it, to speak to. And before I get to answering your question specifically, I want to pan out a little bit and talk about this from a 10,000 foot perspective. I haven't said, well, I say this actually quite often, but I don't think I've said it this emphatically lately. I would really recommend to all of you, if you haven't yet, if you're listening to this podcast or watching this podcast, then I think this is a good fit for you. I would encourage you, invite you to read the book, The Drama of the Gifted Child by Alice Miller. If you haven't read it in the past handful of years, if you've been doing some therapy work or been listening to these broadcasts or attending these broadcasts live for some time and you haven't read it since then, I would encourage you to go back and read it. And I'm going to give you one idea for your reading, especially if you are a mother. Maybe this even applies if you're a father, but more specifically a mother, because back in 1979 when this book was written, it's written about mothers, but it really does apply to whoever is the primary or the functional parent, the functional mother, as they say. I would encourage you to read it from the perspective of the child, not from the perspective of being the parent to your child. And I think if you can read it from that vantage point, I think you can more easily access the grief for what this person is describing in this question. When I was given this book in graduate school, it was the first book that my chairperson assigned for me to read in our reading course together. She gave me The Drama of the Gifted Child. I remember after reading 20 or 30 pages and realizing, wow, this is going to be the theme for the rest of my life. I was excited because I realized that there was a whole ocean of energies, of experiences, of emotions in my unconscious, unexplored, undealt with. Even though up to that point I had been in therapy for several years, I knew that there was a vast and deep ocean beyond that. And at the same time, I also felt some sense of overwhelm that I would be reading this and working through these issues essentially for the rest of my life. And to this day, having read this book 6 or 7 times, I always say to people that I get surprised that even though it's the same text that I'm reading, I get surprised each time at how much smarter Dr. Miller gets each time I read it, and how she seems to be adding chapters and ideas to the book, even though it's the same exact book, because it hits me in deeper, resonant ways. See, this work, this finding you work, is done with experience. The education, the teaching that I do for you, whether it be here or in the books that I write, or through my social media, that's important. That can give you an anchor, a reference point. But this work is a felt experience. You have to have some personal experience, some personal contact with the kind of emotional experiences that I'm teaching about and describing. When you do that, you will see these truths everywhere. So, your question about how do you become your more authentic version of you? Part of it is, or at least the method that I've used, is to spend time with a therapist who could see me, who was interested in understanding me, finding me, not fixing me, not improving me. But in finding me, in discovering me and exploring who I am, my past, I have been improved. And what she has done is she has sat with me patiently. She has not given me that should or should not energy. She's not very interested in directing me towards the right solutions or the right path. She makes invitations. At times, she suggests some skills or some tools, but fundamentally, she sits with me through all of my idiocies, my mistakes, my successes, of course, and she sits with me patiently. And because she has sat with me like nobody ever has, now I can sit with me. I was just sharing this next thought as it pertains to your question with somebody today, and that is this. In a way, I use my relationship with her as a benchmark, a barometer from which I measure all of my other relationships. My therapist, for example, has apologized to me numerous times, either because she sensed that there was some kind of lost connection, some kind of fracture. She could sense in me that something she had said or done really impacted me and affected me in maybe a hurtful way or an upsetting way. And she will come back sometimes the next week and apologize. It doesn't happen every week, but it happens enough. And I experience it as phenomenally unique for an authority figure. Or if I come to her, which I have on several occasions, with feedback or a grievance or an upset, invariably she apologizes and seeks to understand. She doesn't correct me. She doesn't tell me how I misunderstood. She doesn't tell me that it's my anxiety or my narcissism or my depression, that I'm running my thoughts through that filter, my experiences through that filter. And let me just explain it to you so that you're not upset, not angry. No, on the contrary, she says, thank you for telling me. I'll never forget the first time that I told her something that she did that upset me. And she said to me, that must have taken great courage for you to do that. I imagine you expected that this was not going to go well. And for that, I am honored and grateful. And she continued to say that. So now, even though, as my wife points out, she doesn't have to live with me, but still now, I measure that kind of response against the way that other people respond when I'm upset or hurt or angry or sad. I measure myself against that response, not just as a psychotherapist, but as a husband and a father, as a friend in this world. I don't succeed always. Other people don't succeed, but it becomes a reference point. I don't have friends and people who tell me what I should do. Jung said that thinking is hard, and that's why most people judge. I don't spend a lot of time. People don't earn my time if they spend a lot of time judging others, judging me, judging people that they meet. I'm all for someone being angry and hurt and frustrated, but not to gossip or talk about people or have opinions. I don't spend time around people who think that they know my truth and what I should do. I don't spend time around people who think they know what anybody should do. It's not because I'm this harsh critic. It's just because if I spend time around that sensibility, that vibration, it starts to get into me. I spend time around people who can listen, who practice non-judgment, who know that they don't know. I spend time around people who are willing to learn new ways of thinking and being. I spend time around people who are also making it their project to become their authentic self and understand exactly what that means. So my answer to the question is find somebody. And again, I didn't plant this question to say this, but come to a Finding You if you haven't. It's $5,000, just under $5,000 for 4.5 days. And in my opinion, my experience over and over again, almost universally, it is 6 months to 2 years worth of therapy in 4.5 days. So even from a financial standpoint, it is worth its price tag. It sets clear what your project is. You learn how to listen to and hold space for other people. That's a big part of it. And I know you might be feel uncomfortable. You might feel like your trauma's bad, not bad enough. It's not like everybody else's. Or you might think you're different and going to be must. You expect, like everybody does, that the experience you're going to have at Finding You is, well, just like every other experience you've had when you've gone into this kind of a process to share your truth. But I will tell you, because we're not doing what everybody else is doing at Finding You programs. We're not. We're just not. I keep imagining that everybody knows this stuff and everybody's doing it because I see quotes and video clips on social media where people are talking about this stuff, but I don't really encounter it out in the world. I don't really encounter therapists who are analytically trained like the Finding You therapists are. I find greater limitations out there therapeutically. So, Finding You, find somebody, find a group. That's what works so well with the 12-step fellowship, with AA and Al-Anon and CODA and so forth, ACOA. What works so well is that they structure it in a way that you're not supposed to give advice. You're not even supposed to respond to. They call it crosstalk in those meetings. You don't have any crosstalk. You don't respond to somebody else's share. You just listen. I've shared with you that I just did my yearly intensive with my group of men that we go back to every year for the past 12 years or so. And at one point I said to the group in just noticing that our new facilitator would encourage everybody to applaud after somebody shared their big piece of work. And I said, I don't want to be applauded for my work. Because for me, that would lead to me thinking it's a performance. And I've spent most of my life trying to perform to get love. Just like you right here. And I was shaking when I was saying this because I didn't want to offend my facilitator and bruise his ego, because then I was going to be punished for that. Because guess what? That's what I expected. That's what my teachers and the big people growing up would do when I would say things like this. So I was taking that risk. I didn't want my fellow group members to judge me that I was being arrogant or unkind. So I said what I needed to say, shaking. And thankfully, one of my brothers, one of the guys that I've been with every year, I don't think he's missed a year, he just gently said, how would you like us to respond after you share? With silence? And I said, yes, as I breathed a sigh of relief. Silence would be great, just fine with me. And he followed up, he said, would it be okay if I said thank you? And I said, that's just fine too. See, he was letting me be who I was, just like I was trying to do for him and the others. And he was asking me how I wanted to be treated, instead of fitting into some template about the right way, the should way of being. My facilitator, to his credit, responded in a very similar manner. Grateful, encouraging, glad to know what I needed and wanted from him. So I think, yeah, you can just say, this is who I am, and deal with it. And in some sense, you're going to have to do that eventually, I suppose, because not every setting you will be in life is going to be as safe as what I'm describing here. But to have that base, to have that home base to go back to have that reference point, to have that lived experience that we facilitate and bring to you at Finding You, to have that experience with a therapist, a capable therapist, will give you a whole new lens at looking at relationships and people. My wife said to me the other night, I was just commenting on the fact that she spends so much of her day responding to friends and texting back and forth. Right? She has a great network of friends. And she chuckled and said to me, well, you're essentially friendless. So everybody has a lot of friends and a lot of energy spent communicating with them when compared to you. And we laughed about that together. And she's right in the sense that my circle is small. I do have friends and I have colleagues that I work with, and the colleagues that I happen to work with, my partners, are my people, right? At this point in my career, starting Finding You, I was able to bring on Steve Kirk and Keisha Sorensen and Emma, Reedy June, and Jordan June as my partners, and some of the other therapists we brought on that are my people. But I will tell you, even though I have a smaller social network today by a long shot than I did 10 or 15 years ago, I am less lonely today than I ever have been in my entire life. And as many have noted, loneliness is not a matter of having no friends. Loneliness is not being able to tell your story, your truth to the people around you in a way that they will embrace and they will understand and they will see and hear. So my long-winded answer to your question is therapy, Finding You. That's the starting place. That's home base. And then you go out in the world and you practice and you start to see who you want to be around you, who earns your time. And that includes family. Perhaps with the exception of our children, that includes family, spouses, siblings, extended family, family of origin. If I spend time around a certain vibration, a certain way of being long enough, I lose myself. It doesn't even have to come in the form of being assaulted with ideas or feedback. It's just a way of being. In fact, at times when I'm feeling an absence of insight, I can often connect it to discussions or things that people have said where they're operating on this lower vibration of should and shouldn't, good and bad, right and wrong, advice, judgment. Right? Ram Dass said that the core of enlightenment is to judge nothing. See, if we judge nothing, then we are dealing with reality. We judge things to make sense out of a ambiguous, uncertain world. We judge things to give it order, to get some sense of control. We categorize things. Judging things is, in some sense, essential to building knowledge, right? If you read philosophy, you learn that describing things as shorter and taller, bigger and smaller, longer and shorter in terms of time, darker and light. That's parsing out. Joseph Campbell said that in the book of Genesis, that the story of Adam and Eve, that eating the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil is how we gain knowledge. That's how we learn. But when it comes to the human soul, to the human spirit, to the human experience, judging is toxic. Ram Dass uses the poem of trees. He said, we go into the forest and we just see trees. Tall ones, short ones, fat ones, skinny ones, bent ones, straight ones. Some with leaves, some with no leaves, some with pine cones, some with needles. Some that lose their leaves in the winter season. Some that stay green all year. I'm expanding on his poem, of course. But he says, but then we leave the forest and we walk out and we start to judge people. So he said, I practice thinking about people as trees. We don't judge trees. We see a bent tree and we just think, oh, that one is leading toward the light. Or we see a tall tree that rises above and we can see, oh, that one is finding its place to receive nourishment. Or we see one that's cut down and we kind of understand it. But with people, we have judgments. And of course, this philosophy that I'm sharing is terrifying to a lot of people because, well, judgment makes us feel safe, gives us a false sense that we're in control of the universe, that we've mastered something. But in fact, we can learn to live with reality without the filter of our judgments. We can learn just to be with sadness, to be with grief, to be with pain, to be with loss, to be with joy. So find people like that. Listen to these podcasts. Read books from the greats. Read books from psychologists and self-help authors that speak to this kind of awareness. Stay away from people who think they know everything, who think they have all the answers. Stay away from people who think in terms of should or shouldn't. And if you do that, you will become who you are. And you'll be welcomed. Like John Lennon said, if you tell the truth, you won't have many friends, but you'll have the right ones. Thank you for the question. Somebody writes in and says, my daughter, now 26, has been through evoked wilderness therapy and treatment at Red Mountain, Sedona. She has been sober for 6 years, graduated college, has been successfully working. We have a great relationship for the past 5 years. Recently, she entered a new relationship and has morphed herself into what this other person wants her to be. She recently started drinking, not sure of other substances. She has abruptly changed all of her plans. What do we do? Great question. Really great question. I think you watch and you stay. I have a new book coming out soon. I don't know when because the publisher's finishing it, but the name of it is Stay in the Room. And it's about being a parent who doesn't give up. Just stay there. Just be with her. Just watch and to know that this is her journey. There may be opportunities to share your observations, but hold those kinds of moments, those kinds of, for lack of a better word, interventions, hold them lightly in your hand and be willing to drop them immediately. I used to say to parents, the idea is to become safe enough so that you're the first call that your child makes in a crisis. You know, you want to be the first call, not the fifth call. You have to become larger. You have to have this perspective that I'm teaching you about here tonight. You have to develop the resources internally to take in the child still. I have children in their 30s. I was just telling somebody today, I don't think of them, I think of them as my children still. I think they're going to be my children until the day that I die. And so in a sense, in a very real sense, the story isn't finished. Their childhood isn't done, at least from my perspective, until I'm gone. You just be with her. Just love her. Just be interested. Be curious. If there are opportunities to try something, to say something, say it. But if she pushes back or seems defensive or feels judged, drop it. Apologize. Because it's not a good fit. It's not what she needs. You can ask her questions. Like, I've observed this. What do you want me to do? And if she says defensively, just leave me be. You're always judging me. You've always judged me. Then you say, you know, I've slipped back. I'm sorry. Thank you for telling me. Lesson learned. So just show up. Just be there. And should she find herself in a difficult situation again, then you'll be the one that she comes to. But if you stand there in judgment and in confidence that you know what she should be doing, see, this is the great thing about your question. This is the genius of your question. If she has morphed herself into somebody else, to please somebody else, to assure in that relationship that she gets loved and cared for, if she's done that with this person, in a very real sense, that started with you, the parent. If we raise our children to believe that how we feel and what we think about them is really important stuff that they should pay attention to and listen to and adjust to, right? When the most common mistake that parents make, in my estimation, is that we tell our children how we feel in an attempt to straighten them out, in an attempt to change or modify their behavior, or to direct them in ways that we think are good, the right way. And so when we notice our children becoming susceptible to peer pressures, to the pressure of a partner, that is in some small way an indictment on us and our parenting. She's just replaced you with the new partner. And there's nothing about that no point that I'm making except for just awareness. So if you come in and say, hey, I'm concerned, this is what I'm seeing, there's a risk there. There's some risk there. Because the goal is for her to figure herself out, not to worry about what you or this new partner think at all. And it doesn't work to say, don't be codependent on anybody else but me. Right? We say to ourselves, we justify the sharing of feelings to direct our children because we say, well, we love them, we care about them. Guess what? That's what every toxic partner has said to their partner. I know what's best. You're an idiot. You don't understand. This is the right way. So your job is to expand, to become larger, to do your work over and over and over again, to understand your contribution to the dynamic that is present before you, to understand your own childhood, your lost parts of yourself. And I promise you this, if you do your deep work, your inner child work, if you do the work to understand your childhood and how it's created you, for better and for worse, I promise you, you will know what to do with your children. Because once you've done the work and you realize what you need and you haven't gotten, then you know what other people need, because people are much more the same than they are different. So that's what I would encourage you to do. Just love her. Just be there. If you need to say something because you want to see if it works, you can try it. But if she gets defensive or feels threatened or pulls away, drop it. Apologize. And go back to being there with her. Take care of yourself always. Right? We don't need to expose ourselves to everything and anything. We get to be us and do your work. Not because your work will tell you what to do to fix everybody else, but your work will show you who you are. And in knowing who you are, you'll understand everybody else. That is the pattern. Know thyself. Shams Tabrizi, the spiritual teacher for the poet Rumi, said, the summary of all the prophets is this: find yourself a mirror. Because when you know yourself, everybody else is easy. That's the work. That's what the work is. And the work is also taking responsibility for your own serenity. Because if your child needs to behave or do or follow some course in a certain way for you to feel okay, you have upended and reversed the parental and child responsibility to each other. Now they are responsible for your happiness. Now their behavior is responsible for how well you can sleep at night or eat. And if they bear that burden, the chances of them finding their authentic self are slim to none. So you do your work because that's how you feed yourself and take care of yourself and demonstrate that you're responsible for your life. Your child is not. And then from that place, you can more effectively be available to the people that you love. Thank you for that. All right, it's a short one tonight. I think that's all we have. Upcoming, next Finding You Intensive for individuals, April 23rd. May 16th is the online version. June 4th is the one that follows. The Conscious Parenting Workshop live in the Bay Area, 9 to 4 local time. And then online, May 19th, 9 to 4 Mountain Time. The Finding Connection Workshop, hosted and facilitated by myself and my wife, Michelle, June 18th through 22nd. All intensives, all inquiries to info@findingyouprograms.com. I'm going to be in New York for a 4.5-day workshop. Very inexpensive. It's only $500 for 5 days. The Audacity to Be You workshop. Go to eomega.org to find out more. And then upcoming, the Finding You Inner Circle. That is a subscription to the Finding You podcast with extra content and access to the live broadcasts. Finding You alumni will automatically be enrolled. Any questions about any of this? To sign up, findingyouprograms.com, info@findingyouprograms.com. My 2 books, my 2 current books, soon I'll get to add a third here, The Journey of the Heroic Parent and The Audacity to Be You, are available on Amazon and Audible. And I'm very excited about my next broadcast. My next broadcast will be on religious trauma. It's a scary one to wade into, but a really important one. I estimate that about 30% of the clients that we work with at Finding You have some significant trauma based in their religious upbringing. So I'll be talking about spirituality, religious trauma, and everything related. Can't wait for that one. Looking forward to that so much. I've never spoken on this podcast, and I'm really looking forward to it. That's next Tuesday, April 8th at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. All right, folks. I hope this is a helpful point of contact. And as always, for and on behalf of the people that you love and the people that love you, thank you for showing up for these things and doing your work, looking at yourself. It makes all the difference in the world. Have a great evening, and I'll talk to you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.